Gentlemen, welcome to season 12 of our Blood, Sweat, and Beers Fantasy Football League. The Corona edition, the virus edition, COVID plus season that will certainly be like no other. We'll see. Hopefully, we'll get through the entire season. Hopefully, the NFL will get through the entire season. But much like the NFL and other sports, and really the year in general, these updates will most likely be late, inconsistent, confusing, and probably at times completely contradictory to itself. So just to give you a heads up on what is likely to come. But looking forward to the season, we had a nice adjustment to our online fantasy draft. I didn't love last year. Seemed like it was very sterile, right? 45 minutes, boom, we're done. It was, I don't know. It wasn't the same. I know it couldn't be the same without everybody being in the room, but at least this year we were virtually all together. And that way we could see each other and poke fun at Joey. So speaking of poking fun at Joseph, no, we'll get to that later. One of the things that has already been an interesting topic of conversation among the league, just right next to Keith not understanding anything we're talking about, is this whole idea of these final projections, the final standing, that we're not exactly sure where it comes from. We've had these for a couple of years now, and I think the original suggestion was maybe Watson, because of all of the analytics that we get from IBM's Watson. I think John dubbed him as Mr. Wilson. I personally thought it was a nice call out to Home Improvement, Mr. Wilson, right, the neighbor that was always trying to be helpful and give sage advice. Keith, you're just going to have to look that one up. But we just affectionately referred to whoever was pulling the strings there as Wilson, and generally thought Wilson was pretty confused. And that may be the case. It seems to be a little confusing as to how those rankings are adjusted based on the results of each week. Well, I'm here to tell you that I think Wilson is a whole lot smarter than we've been giving him credit for. Let me give you just a couple of quick examples. So as we look at our current final projections, we see that there's been a lot of movement over this week. Let's look at that top team, Team Cool Breeze, dropping or moving the most, in this case, dropping 4 points. Looking at the scoreboard from this past weekend, Cool Breeze won. They're now 2-0. Second most points scored this week. Why would they drop from a projection of finishing first to dropping below the average, going into the lower half of the league? Well, let me present to you my first exhibit. If you look at Team Cool Breeze roster, notice all of the injury designations. McCaffrey, injured reserve. Julio Jones, Sammy Watkins. Look down to his bench. Cam Akers. 2 wide receivers, all questionable, and another one of his running backs on IR. Is Wilson calculating more than just what happened in the past and looking ahead to the future and saying this team isn't going to be strong moving forward no matter what they've done in the past? Well, let me give you another example. Let's go back and look at the final standing projection. Let's look at, for instance, fantasy football team moving up a spot. Well, as we go back and look at our standings at scoreboard from this past week, the fantasy football team lost. In fact, scored the fewest points in the league. But of course, you know where I'm going, right? My next exhibit, take a look at the roster. Not a single injury designation. Is there something to that? Could they be saying, look, you're going to be second best of who's left? Potentially. So we'll just have to see how all this pans out. Obviously, when we're talking about Joey's team, it's a different team week to week. In fact, hopefully, we'll have a different team name week to week, looking at you, Gloop. But we'll just have to see if any of my theories holds true as we look at the intelligence, the analytics of Wilson as it looks deep into that black box, spitting out the ticker tape on the other side. But we're looking forward to the rest of the season. We have some questions that need to be answered, not just about Joey's team or his team name. Can Gloop repeat? Looking strong so far. Will the new guy, the lowercase guy, will he ever show up? Will we ever hear from him? He seems to be doing pretty well on the field. Well, stay tuned for more mostly confusing, sometimes contradictory, but often irrelevant information.